in which our happy couples learn that life is not easy, whether as newlyweds or as recent divorcees. Chapter 26. "Well, Kapitanich," said Seryosha, red-cheeked and merry, coming back from a walk on the eve of his birthday, and giving his pleated jacket to the tall old hall porter, who smiled down at the little fellow from his great height. "Did the bandaged official come today? Did Papa receive him?" "He did. As soon as the manager came out, I announced him," the porter said with a merry wink. "I'll take it off, if you please." "Seryosha," said the Slav tutor, pausing in the inside doorway, "take it off yourself." But Seryosha, though he heard the tutor's weak voice, paid no attention. He stood holding on to the porter's sash and looking into his face. "And did Papa do what he wanted him to?" The porter nodded affirmatively. The bandaged official, who had already come 7 times to position Alexei Alexandrovitch for something, interested both Seryosha and the hall porter. Seryosha had come upon him once in the front hall, and had heard him pitifully asking the porter to announce him, saying that he and his children were sure to die. Since then, Seryosha had taken an interest in the official, having met him in the front hall another time. "And was he very glad?" he asked. "How could he not be? He was all but skipping when he left." "And has anything come?" asked Seryosha after a pause. "Well, sir," the porter said in a whisper, shaking his head, "there's something from the Countess." Seryosha understood at once that the porter was talking about a present for his birthday from Countess Lydia Ivanovna. "Is there really? Where?" "Cornet took it to your papa's. Must be something nice." "How big is it? Like this?" "A bit smaller, but it's nice." "A book?" "No, a thing. Go, Vasily Lukitch is calling," the porter said, hearing the steps of the approaching tutor, and carefully unclasping the little hand in the half-removed glove that was holding on to his sash. He winked and nodded towards Yunich. "Coming, Vasily Lukitch," Seryosha answered with that merry and loving smile that always won over the dutiful Vasily Lukitch. Seryosha was too merry. Everything was too happy for him not to tell his friend the porter about another family joy, which he had learned of during his walk in the summer garden from Countess Lydia Ivanovna's niece. This joy seemed especially important to him, as it fell in with the joy of the official and his own joy about the toys that had come. It seemed to Seryosha that this was a day when everybody must be glad and merry. "You know Papa got the Alexander Nevsky?" "How could I not know? People have already come to congratulate him." "And is he glad?" "How could he not be glad of the Tsar's favor? He must have deserved it," the porter said sternly and seriously. Seryosha reflected, peering into the porter's face, which he had studied in the smallest detail, particularly his chin hanging between grey side whiskers, which no one saw except Seryosha, because he always looked at it from below. "Well, and has your daughter been to see you lately?" The porter's daughter was a ballet dancer. When could she come on weekdays? They've also got to study. And you too, sir. Off you go. When he came to his room, instead of sitting down to his lessons, Seryoja told his tutor his guess that what had been brought must be an engine. What do you think? He asked. But Vasily Lukitch thought only that the grammar lesson had to be learned for the teacher, who was to come at 2:00. No, but just tell me, Vasily Lukitch, he asked suddenly, already sitting at his desk and holding the book in his hands. What's bigger than the Alexander Nevsky? You know Papa got the Alexander Nevsky. Vasily Lukitch replied that the Vladimir was bigger than the Alexander Nevsky. And higher? The highest of all is Andrew the First called. And higher than Andrew? I don't know. What? Even you don't know? And Seryoja, leaning on his elbow, sank into reflection. His reflections were most complex and varied. He imagined how his father would suddenly get both the Vladimir and the Andrew, and how as a result of that he would be much kinder today at the lesson, and how he himself, when he grew up, would get all the decorations, and the one they would invent that was higher than the Andrew. No sooner would they invent it than he would deserve it. They would invent a still higher one, and he would also deserve it at once. The time passed in such reflections, and when the teacher came, the lesson about the adverbial modifiers of time, place, and manner was not prepared, and the teacher was not only displeased, but also saddened. The teacher's sadness touched Seryoja. He did not feel himself to blame for not having learned the lesson, but try as he might, he was quite unable to do it while the teacher was explaining it to him. He believed and seemed to understand, but once he was on his own, he was simply unable to remember and understand that such a short and clear word as thus was an adverbial modifier of manner. But all the same, he was sorry that he had made his teacher sad and wanted to comfort him. He chose a moment when the teacher was silently looking in the book. Mikhail Ivanitch, when is your name day? He asked suddenly. You'd better think about your work. Name days mean nothing to intelligent beings, just like any other day when we have to work. Seryoja looked attentively at the teacher, his sparse little beard, his spectacles which had slipped down below the red mark on his nose, and lapsed into thought so that he heard nothing of what his teacher explained to him. He realized that his teacher was not thinking about what he said. He felt it by the tone in which it was spoken. But why have they all decided to say it in the same way? Everything that's most boring and unnecessary. Why does he push me away from him? Why doesn't he love me? He asked himself with sorrow, and could think of no answer. If you enjoy this format, please leave a like and subscribe and return tomorrow for the next chapter.